Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Marvel Studios' Echo. You and I are the same. So, who's the monster? Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for Marvel Studios' Echo. Special thanks, as always, to our friends at Disney Studios Canada and Marvel Canada for letting us watch these episodes early for review. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, video games, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for today's review, we have two guys that I know would swoop in on motorcycles to protect me from Kingpin's army. We have my friends Justin and Darcy. Happy New Year. How's it going?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's
going good. It's going good. Off to a good start, I think.
Yeah, especially with this show, right?
Oh, yeah.
Would you ride in on motorcycles to protect me? Have you either of you ridden a motorcycle before?
No. There's a death trap waiting to happen. I don't understand how people go around riding them, and especially going through Europe and they're weaving through the cars on the highway. Not for me. No, thank you, sir.
No. Yeah. I think we've actually talked about this last year about like riding on dangerous vehicles, and I think
it was one of your questions about in regards to Loki and riding a jet ski.
Oh yeah, riding a jet ski. Okay.
I was like, God, no. I've been on it once.
You've been on a wait. So have
actually,
you been on a motorcycle?
I think Darcy. No, I've not been on a motorcycle. Okay. But I think when I told the story, it was with Kevin. But I think Darcy was actually there, but he was much younger. It was that was Deerhurst.
Oh yeah, that was like one of my family's work retreats. Yeah, and you were along for the ride, and I remember that I think I was probably like 6 or 7 years old at the time.
Yeah,
so that was a while ago.
Date ourselves more, Darcy. God, we're
generations. So for me, the only thing I've done on a motorcycle, I was on once with one of my friends, their dad. And I think he almost passed out with how hard I was squeezing him, holding on. This is when I was a little younger. But no, if I ever get on any vehicle, 3 wheels or more, I think is my limit. I think I go 3 wheels or more. But with that said, let's get to the synopsis for this series. Marvel Studios presents Echo, spotlighting Maya Lopez as she is pursued by Wilson Fisk's criminal empire. When the journey brings her home, she must confront her own family legacy. Echo stars Alaqua Cox as Maya Lopez, as well as Chaske Spencer, Tantu Cardinal, Devery Jacobs, Zahn McClarnon, Cody Lightning, Graham Greene, and Vincent D'Onofrio, who returns as the villainous Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Kingpin. Episodes of the series are directed by Sidney Freeland and Catriona McKenzie, and all 5 episodes of Marvel Studios' Echo launch on Disney Plus and Hulu January 9th, which, if you're listening to this right as we've uploaded it, will be this evening. So you can definitely check those out and listen to this first, and then go watch and just get hyped for this series. Now, again, this will be spoiler free. We haven't actually seen all 5 episodes. We've only seen the first 3 episodes of the series. So let's get into like what we thought about those 3 episodes. I think we should start off by doing what I think, Sydney, we had the other opportunity to also interview Sydney and doing what she mentioned as well, which is thanking the Choctaw people for sharing their stories, their history, and for working so closely with the entire production team to give us something that and this is something that I love in shows, is something that entertains me, but also teaches me and also like gets me so interested in the source material. And I think that's the biggest thing that I think we will all be taking away from this, is that just how authentic the show feels, how every moment, and it's mostly just because the people that are making it are the people that live and are steeped in that culture. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I sensed immediately, was that level of authenticity and the sincerity within the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the beauty of this show is that, we are talking about a Marvel Disney Plus series, but there is such a cultural significance and a cultural weight that is weaved really well in this story that helps to define Maya Lopez, as well as just giving more depth to the world within the MCU, and understanding the Choctaw Nation, and the influences and stories. This series is very much a masterclass in representation from the Choctaw side, but also from the deaf community as well. Like the attention to detail with the ASL, and the fact that the production went to great lengths to translate the scripts for ASL, and adapting that to weave that into obviously the story, and making the significance of it. Again, I just think that this is one of the bright spots in when you do a show like this, is how committed the production kind of becomes to honoring and respecting all sides of representation. And I think this, again, to see it in the MCU is fantastic.
And I mean, just going back to the Choctaw story, and how I think it's really cool that we're getting this coming off the heels of that What If episode featuring another Devery Jacobs Marvel character with Kaori. And that was one of the standout episodes from the season. And now that we're getting another show that is, again, steeped in that culture, it's really cool that we're getting the opportunity to witness these stories in the Marvel universe. And I can't wait to see what comes next, because again, the way that they set up the story and weave it into Echo's backstory and all that stuff, it's really engaging, and you're gripped by it almost immediately. And I want to see how it plays out.
And it's a different indigenous culture from that we're seeing here, right? It's Mohawk, if I'm not mistaken, in What If, and here we're seeing the Choctaw. So the fact that, again, giving more plausibility, giving more definition to the world that mirrors our world, the MCU, to a certain degree. I love that attention to detail. I love that idea of bringing those factors in and helping to shape the Marvel Cinematic Universe with those elements.
And it's so timely too. Congrats to Lily Gladstone for winning the Golden Globe for her portrayal in Killers of a Flower Moon. And I just think we're seeing this at the forefront of Hollywood, and I think it's more encouragement to say, like, we need more of these stories out there.
Yeah, I think we've had a really great, I would say, almost maybe 2 or 3 years. Prey is one that's obviously memorable. Another Disney Plus Hulu project, a film involving the Predator, but then it takes place during the, I believe, Navajo, if I'm not mistaken, and just again the sort of cultural importance, the way the language was used in that. You have Reservation Dogs, which gives you this sort of dark and funny sides of living res life. There's just such an honesty. You talked about it perfectly with our interviews, who actually have worked on both. Have worked on Reservation Dogs and are now working on Echo
with Sidney Freeland.
With Sidney Freeland, who actually was one of the directors and has taken part. Devery Jacobs has written and directed episodes of Reservation Dogs. So all sides of indigenous culture and representation is being seen through the lens, and I think you're absolutely right. Like, there's just more of that's happening, and that attention to that detail, and making sure it's accurate, it's right. As Sydney said in our interview, it's not something they read out of a textbook or something that was like an archaeological sort of myth. This is, they're going to the people, they're going to learn from the Choctaw people, as they did for the series, and tell that story with authenticity.
Well, you mentioned through a specific lens, and it kind of brought to mind the cinematography in this series, and I wanted to shout that out because I think they do such a phenomenal job where they're able to emphasize certain aspects about different moments in history that you'll get to see throughout the show at the beginning of each episode, and we get to learn more about Maya's ancestry. And each moment so far that we've seen is captured in such different ways that make them really stand out and make them really memorable. And for me, they're probably some of my favorite moments in the series so far. And I think it's cool the way that they were able to again, I love it when filmmakers and cinematographers can tell a story just literally through the visuals as well as the characters and the moments that we're seeing on screen. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, the cinematography in the opening sequences is so drastically different from the present day cinematography, and I love that idea of framing those openings, those moments where we see a peek behind, the history and the culture of the Choctaw people, it looks different. It feels different. And then when we're brought back to that present day, it's just so noticeably, very grungy and gritty. More of that sort of handheld cinematography that you're used to with a show that, like this, like Echo, is meant to be sort of like an extension of, the Netflix's Daredevil or the Punisher.
Fits perfectly with those.
And it does. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. And I think that's another great way to kind of talk about the bridge between what was done at Netflix and how that's coming now into fold here at the MCU, is the visual cinematography very much captures that in a lot of ways. And I think that's also why there's been a lot of promotional material for this, where it's, viewer discretion is advised. This is, very mature. There's that emphasis on it, and you can see that they're not holding back. They're not holding back. And it goes both ways. As we were talking about, it's with the representation, it's with the cultural influences. They're not holding back. They're going full throttle with giving you that accuracy and that authenticity. And the same from the sort of grit and grittiness of the real world that Maya Lopez lives in. They go hard. They don't hold any punches back. You'll see it in the choreography. It's spectacular.
And it's funny you mentioned the Netflix series, because like I was reminded of a lot of Daredevil, there were several moments where our sight was taken away. We only heard what was going on. And in this series, they flip it on the end there and they take away the sound and you get to witness it. And the way they open up the camera shots when the sound is taken away to almost give you the sense that that's what Echo's or Maya's going through, or she sees so much more because she doesn't have the hearing. And just the way that they are able to, again, tell that story through visual cues and just taking away those auditory notes that we're so used to, such a refreshing take on this action genre, superhero thing. I loved it.
Yeah. And the way that they take there's a specific moment that I know that you're bringing up that I just want to mention. There's a needle drop that just kicks ass. Like, it is the most badass moment. Pretty Waste by Bones UK. Yes, I had to figure out what song it was. Comes in and it just rocks you to your core. And it hits in the same, honestly, for me, and listen, this might be a bit of hyperbole or people might think it's recency bias, but that sequence hits for me like the Daredevil hallway scene hit for me the first time that I saw that.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what I love about even that sequence, as you were talking about, Darcy, is the weaving between being deaf and not, where we just dive into Maya's head and experience moments with unaudible sound, more of like thumping basses and so on and so forth, things that she might be more attuned to.
Sound you feel rather than hear, like
exactly.
Those deep bass rumbling notes that hit you in the chest. You kind of feel that a bit, but that's all you get.
And there's they threw this moment in the trailer. But when she cracks that neck of someone in that trailer, and even though you've seen it in the trailer, the build up to it and the way all the sound just gets sucked out of the scene, it really does put you in Maya's headspace. And I really did appreciate, again, throwing us into that representation, making us see or hear and visibly be put into the place of what Maya is in when she's fighting in these sequences. It's spectacular.
I think the other aspect to it too, and we're talking about aspects of, Daredevil, utilizing moments where he can't see it to an advantage. And I love the choreography, the fight choreography here, how Alaqua worked with Mark Sizik to incorporate the fact that she can do bigger blocks with her prosthetic leg, right? The way that she doesn't feel pain in that prosthetic leg. And she's able to use that in combat in specific ways is just so cool. And I think I don't know, it's a really cool mix of MMA martial arts style fighting that is just, it doesn't, like you were saying, Justin, it doesn't hold back. It's quick, it's fast paced, and it hits. And I think
bloody too, man. It is bloody.
Yeah, the show is definitely violent. There is definitely some gunshots that happen for sure, and you'll see that in these fight sequences. But I think the interesting thing is, I was unfortunately there's a sequence. Don't look it up. It was leaked. You'll get to see it very soon. And I saw just listen, maybe I just got to stay off of X or whatever, but so many haters in the comments just saying how it didn't look like the fight choreography was connecting. It's not going to look that way off a shaky cam off of somebody who leaked it. You know what I mean? Like, it's watch the show. Add the correct sound, the correct audio. It's gonna hit. And there is a specific moment that is just, it's really exciting as a fan of the MCU that I think you're gonna enjoy.
Yeah, it's cool. It was definitely a very cool moment.
I wanted to jump into one more thing, though, just in regards to the narrative. I think before we talk about Alaqua and some of the other performances in the show, I did just want to say, I mean, this is Marvel's first spotlight banner, so it's meant to be a standalone project. And I think, at least for me, I think for the most part, they did a good enough job of recapping. There is a bit of recapping that happens for the moments of Hawkeye. But I will say, for those who haven't seen Hawkeye, like, go watch it. I really do think it would benefit you coming into this series. It's got a dog that eats pizza named Pizza Dog, okay? Like, just watch it. You need to watch it. It's such a good show. But I think the fact that this is a spotlight banner that is connected still to Hawkeye is a little bit, for me, I think it's a little bit of a rough go to say this is a pure spotlight banner in the sense that it's I don't think it does a good enough job to give you everything that you need to feel in order to jump into this show. I do think that watching Hawkeye would really benefit you if you're coming into this.
I feel like I'm on the other page because I feel like that first episode handles the recapping and retelling of Maya's history beautifully, because they weave new scenes that we haven't seen before into stuff we have already seen in Hawkeye or other projects, basically, depending on the story. But I feel like it handles it really well. And I was, despite having knowing the story, I was really enjoying the way they were refreshing my memory, at least. And again,
for those who've seen it, absolutely. I mean,
I feel like, but even if I hadn't seen it, I feel like it does a really good job because it sets up the whole, like, you understand her whole history even more than you do than coming from Hawkeye. I feel like we got a lot more in that first episode than we would have gotten from Hawkeye.
The only thing that kind of throws a wrench in it all is, obviously, we do see a brief moment with from Hawkeye where Clint is talking to Maya. And I think in that moment, it could either be one of two things. If you haven't seen Hawkeye, it could be a surprise and delight, and then you go and you check out that show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see where you're coming from, Nate, but I think I actually thought it was handled well. It did a better job of trying to pull in influences of where we have, without necessarily saying, well, you have to go see this show, right? You have to go see it. But again, there might be that one moment with Clint that could be like, well, why is he here if you haven't seen it? I feel like people have seen it, especially on the Disney Plus side. But again, I might just be one of the people that would think that because I watch everything, right? From them. So,
yeah, the expanded moments is something that I absolutely appreciate in that first episode, for sure. But let's talk about some of the performances. I mean, we already mentioned the fight choreography, and I think Alaqua is absolutely killing it. She's such a badass, and her fighting skills show and shine so much in the show. And she's this character that's raised herself through the ranks of Kingpin's army to this stage in her life. And she's been training since she was a little girl in New York to be able to go to toe with a character like Hawkeye, for instance. And so I think in this show, she's holding her own. And I also want to just kind of shout out the fact that she's, in terms of her performances, every single moment when you're looking at her face, you can just see that she's either holding back emotionally or she's trying to get to the next moment, and you can sort of see that in her performance, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think again, the fact that Alaqua Cox was found for this role, she's this is her first role as a character, right? Was Hawkeye. Now here she's Maya Lopez, has a whole show about her. I think that's such a testament to her commitment and why she's so great at this role, because there's a sense of belief, there's a sense of commitment. You see it in her fight choreography. You see it again, as you pointed out, Nate, in the way she's delivering, her ASL. Like, it doesn't limit her. She knows how to use ASL and emotions at the same time to really hit home how she's feeling. And shout out to her cousin who plays the younger version of her. because she's both adorable, and also the fact that like she is a spitting image
It's
of
perfect
Alaqua.
casting.
Like
Mhm.
well, it makes sense that you would go to her cousin, right?
She's
Like someone in her
excellent.
family. So
Yeah.
to a T,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed that they were able to bring her back for some of these moments to help give more depth to her past. But yeah, like again, you can't go wrong with Alaqua Cox. She's killing it. She loves this role, and you see it in every moment she's on screen.
Mhm. It almost feels like Echo was written solely for Alaqua Cox, because
Exactly.
there's so much crossover between the character and the actor that of
Mhm.
course we're going to get a stellar performance, because like you said, it's grounded in that reality. She lives with prosthetics, so she has to deal with that every day. Of course, it's going to be able to incorporate it into her fighting movements and style
Mhm.
flawlessly. And the ASL, everything about it is she lives with it, so of course it's going to ring true and have hit home so much harder. But yeah, it's a great performance.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, she actually she grew up with a specific sign language called C, and then she actually adapted and learned sign language for this series. So the fact that she was able to kind of take that on, and shout out to the entire cast as well, for also taking that on. And we've heard stories of them learning signs so that they can effectively communicate with not only Alaqua but a lot of people that were on the set at the time. I also want to bring up, just because he makes me feel the warm and fuzzies every single time I see him, and that's Graham
Wilson
Greene.
Fisk. Oh,
Well,
sorry.
yeah, Wilson Fisk is the opposite of we'll get to him. We'll get to him. But I want to shout out Graham Greene.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much everything he's in. He's a Canadian icon. He's so warm. He's so kind. He's respected. He's charming. And it just, I love the character that he's playing, because Maya is such a I mean, the series is brutal and violent, and Maya's going through some really rough stuff, but really the only scenes that I've seen her smile in, at least as an adult, are with Graham Greene, and with his
Family.
character, because he's family, but also because he is just, again, he's that charming, and I really really I love seeing him in these shows.
Yeah, he's always a delight. He always tends to surprise. I think he's a ball of energy to a certain degree. Yeah, he was in Last of Us, was he not?
He was,
And yeah,
yeah, he was a
so
great moment in Last of
yeah,
Us.
and
Yeah,
and like honestly, like, and he was in season 3 of Reservation
yep,
Dogs, plays a very important character. And yeah, like to see him through these various shows that have those cultural hints of indigenous culture, and obviously he's so predominant in that he is indigenous, and he is one of the bigger well-known actors that's doing it. You see him kind of come in and just bring himself
yeah,
in this show and just be so charming and delightful. He's kind of like the fun uncle, if you will,
Oh yeah.
which I really enjoy.
yeah,
I just love the fact that one scene he'll have you laughing at one of the random things he says, or his impersonation of your stereotypical indigenous person type thing, just that, and then he goes right around and he hits you with that emotion right at the
Mhm.
gate, and the family connection. You can understand why Maya feels that connection to him, because he is so lighthearted, but also is so deep and
Yes,
meaningful. I love it. Great
exactly.
performance from him
Yeah,
again.
he can be goofy, but then really insightful,
Hmm.
yeah,
right? Like he can have fun with you and like can kind of take jabs at you, but then really drop some like very important introspective stuff that will make
Hmm.
you think. I want to talk about Devry Jacobs.
yeah.
We, as you mentioned, we only have seen 3 episodes. She hasn't been in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's obviously an importance with her and her relationship to Maya that is going to be explored through these 5 episodes. But when she is on screen, and in the moments that she does interact with Maya, and the way she's using ASL to act, again, I want to point out the fact that both Devry and Chaske Spencer, um, they learned ASL, right? They learned ASL for this roles. And so it becomes a whole new process when you need to act and sign. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for both, they are doing a great job. I think there's there's more of a rhythmic beat to the way Chaske delivers his sign.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more of such an emotional tone to the way Devry signs her scenes, like,
Yeah.
and signs her lines. It's done in such an honest way. Like, you wouldn't know that they learned it, right? And I think that that's something that's really, really great about their performances, and how both of those characters have they're so influential to Maya, and to see them kind of how influential they are, it's great. It's really great.
I just love the fact that, like you said, they're so good at the fact that they learned ASL, and then that you could pick up on those differences in the way that they talk using ASL. Like
Yeah,
Chaske is much more staccato, very he uses it and it goes with his emotions, very like punctuating his sentences
yeah.
almost with the sign language. Whereas Devry is very fluid and much more emotional and connected. It's just it feels so like organic and like true to form that like you wouldn't have guessed they learned it. It's so well done. But if
Mhm.
we're talking about family members of Maya, I gotta shout out Biscuits. Cody Lightning as Biscuits is the smile puts a smile on my face every time I see him.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. Another like, and he also learned ASL for the role, and you can
Yeah.
see it too. He comes across as that goofy cousin that you get that in his signing as well. So again, great performance from Cody Lightning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he's very lovable.
Mhm.
I also, and he's also got a great radio voice. You'll see what I mean when we get there. But I was like, I didn't know what that. Anyway, I will say, for Devry, I agree with everything you're saying. In our interview, she had mentioned how Bonnie is almost a representation of what Maya could have been had she had stayed in New York or stayed in Oklahoma and not gone to New York. And I think that it's very apt, and you can absolutely see that. I think my only you mentioned all the good things. I think my only issue is that I just want more
Mhm.
of Devry. I would
Yeah,
have
I
loved to
think
have
that's the
gotten
only thing. Yeah.
more of her. I do feel a little bit of crunch so far in these first 3 episodes where I'm like, I feel like some things were taken out. I feel like we might be missing some sequences that maybe did include Devry. And I understand, again, no spoilers. I understand narratively why things sort of shake out the way they do with what we've gotten. But I think for me, that would be the only thing that is missing, is just more of Devry, because again, she is so phenomenal. We love her work on Reservation Dogs. But yeah, I think that's kind of, for me, the only issue. And then I think the other person we need to bring up is Kingpin, is Vincent D'Onofrio. I think that might be the only other thing I will say is, I mean, we've already given him so much praise throughout Hawkeye, and of course, if we've ever brought up Daredevil, he is king, like he's perfect as
Mhm.
Kingpin. If the old adage of like, oh yeah, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, Vincent D'Onofrio is Wilson Fisk, is Kingpin, and we get a little bit more of him. But I will say I didn't find that we're getting as much of him as the marketing for this series led me to believe. I thought it was going to be a little more prevalent than what we've seen so far. So I'm really hoping that does change for the remainder of the series, because he's so excellent. And I think between Devry and Vincent, that would be my only issues. I just wanted more of them, and I maybe expected a little bit more of them as well.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that, like you mentioned, there's, we've seen 3 of the 5 episodes. So as we go into watching the last 2 episodes, there is a bit of a crunch.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like some things need to happen. Or else we're going to be getting a season 2 hopefully sooner rather than later, or it's going to
And
be
that's
picked up
okay
somewhere.
too. That's
That's
okay
okay
too.
too.
Yeah.
But like, to your point, I'm okay with actually the amount of how much they've used Wilson Fisk in the Kingpin. I think that's fine. And even with Devry, the way they've held out, the things that they've done to justify why they've held that out,
Sure.
and which makes a moment very much more impactful. Given that, I think that makes sense, but it doesn't take away from the fact that when she's there and she's on screen, she's delivering. Like, she's great, and
Mhm.
I love that. But yeah, I think narratively, to your point, I think that's my only real thing, is what's going to happen in these next 2 episodes. It's, really up in the air. Um, but we know that there's the Kingpin is in the shadows, if you will.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a looming presence
Yes.
of Kingpin for sure. Like, the characters are aware of
Yeah, who
what he
Fisk
was
is
and
and
who Fisk
stuff. Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
so yeah. So I want more. I want more. I'm just I'm just a greedy Kirby. Justin always sends the Kirby gif whenever I say stuff like that.
You also just send the gift yourself, so
That's true.
It's
That's
probably
true.
your
I acknowledge it wholeheartedly. So obviously, with only seeing 3 episodes out of the 5, we can't give a rating for this series. So I mean, I think it's obvious that we will all probably keep watching.
Yeah, we're
So
invested. Yeah.
I'd love to maybe get like again your final thoughts, and maybe if you could give me out of the 3 episodes, what's one that you're most excited for everyone to see?
I mean, yeah, it's obvious that I'm going to be coming back to this show. For every aspect of the show is incredibly enjoyable, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. In terms of what episode I'm excited for people to see, what is the episode that has that needle drop moment that we're talking about? Is that the
Episode
first
1.
episode? Yeah, that first episode was like what really hooked me. I was kind of on the fence about whether I was into the show or looking forward to it or not. After that first episode ended, I was like, okay, I'm on board. Let's go. What's next type
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, definitely episode 1 gets that hook in you deep, I think, and you're in for the ride as soon as you're done that. So
Yeah.
episode 1.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think episode 1 is definitely the hook, especially the hook for you to binge all 5 episodes,
Mhm.
right? Like for you to just watch them all. I think it does a really great job. I'm very excited for episode 3. I think there's a little more character growth there and a little more development. I think, you know, again, if you're invested after episode 1, I think when you get to episode 3, there's some really great stuff. But yeah, I think this you know, Echo, it's such a blend of beauty and brutality in the way it sort of it's confronting themes while also pushing boundaries of you know, mature content within the MCU. And I love the way it's weaving the cultural tapestry, not only to respect the Choctaw heritage, but also to like shine a spotlight on the deaf community. I think that this is, you know, again, the cast is coming together to tell this story in a very honest way, learning ASL and doing this, you know, wholeheartedly. And I think as an entry into this whole new Marvel spotlight banner, it definitely stands to be one of the most honest and mature pieces, you know, sort of tackling the complex narrative of Maya Lopez and adding more depth and authenticity to the MCU in general. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what they do with the next 2 episodes, but I do feel like they've built up quite a bit. Like not that much has really happened.
Mhm.
It has stayed very central on Maya Lopez. So I guess maybe then it's a success in a lot of ways. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the last 2 episodes shake out.
Well, and it's interesting because you mentioned what, you know, sort of some of the maturity and groundedness that this is bringing to the MCU, and I think that was again a lot of the ways that we felt when Daredevil dropped, when Punisher dropped, right? Even Jessica Jones, like there were so many moments where we would watch those shows and go, okay, this is, you know, we can have our really heartfelt and even sometimes dark moments as we get later into the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. But, you know, Guardians 1, right? We can have the goofy, fun rides, but we can also have these like intense and very honest and beautiful moments of looking at family, but also some of these more brutal and mature moments that you would watch and go, this is really good TV. And so I think this is a great first go for the Marvel Spotlight banner. Again, the cast is phenomenal. The representation is phenomenal. The needle drops are awesome. The fight sequences are brutal and intense and great. And just one of those things that make you just sort of pump your fist in the air and go, whoa, like it's exciting. It's a really exciting time for Marvel TV if we can get more of these kind of series out and focused on some of these sort of characters that you just wouldn't expect. And I think the episode that I'm most excited for people to see, honestly, I think episode 2 has maybe the opening. I would say the first part of episode 2 is one of the coolest things that I've seen in the way it's shot. And again, I mentioned that I brought up that cinematography. This is where I was like, whoa, like they are really going different with it, and it shows and it's really cool. But no, I would be in agreement with Darcy. Episode 1 is the one that I'm going to choose as most excited for fans to see, just because there's some jaw dropping moments that occur. And jaw kicking moments that occur. But that is it for this spoiler-free review for episodes 1 to 3 of Marvel Studios Echo. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the shows or movies we cover, well, I'm going to let Justin kick you in the face with information so you can learn how you can reach us.
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Good. That was a much softer kick. That was nice of you. Good.
Yeah, I have my jaw in place still.
Yeah. I also want to invite you to join our Discord using the link in our description so we can talk about this series. We're going to have a channel up basically right now, so you can jump in and we can talk about it. You can talk about it now. It will be a spoiler-filled Discord channel, so make sure you've watched all the episodes of the show that dropped, obviously, so that you don't get spoiled for anything. But then jump in and let's have a blast chatting about this series. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering some of the best releases of last year being 2023, like our spoiler-free reviews for Marvel Studios' What If Season 2, Netflix's Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, A24's The Iron Claw, and Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron, which, congrats to The Boy and the Heron, also won a Golden Globe. Plus, we also have some great interviews out now, like our most recent interviews with the cast, as we've been talking about, of this very show. I had the lovely opportunity to chat with Alaqua Cox, Maya Lopez, Echo herself, as well as Devery Jacobs, Chaske Spencer, director Sydney Freeland, and executive producer Richie Palmer. We chat, I talked to all of them about some different things, but in those discussions were conversations about the incredible fight choreography, the authentic representation on the show, as well as who inspires them, and both Alaqua and Richie Palmer share who they would want to see Echo team up with from the MCU. Some really cool answers that you need to go check out those interviews. So if you want to check out our Alaqua Cox interview, that's exclusively available on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We'll put that in the link in our description as well, so it's easy for you to find, as well as all of our other interviews are available on your podcast service of choice, and again, also on YouTube. And lastly, we've got our spoiler-filled discussion of Marvel's What If Season 2, where Justin and I talk about that final moment. Darcy, have you caught up with What If Season 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that you know the final moment I'm talking about. What could it possibly mean for the MCU? And lastly, I also want to shout out, in case you missed it, Justin had a great conversation recently with fearless Fred Kennedy, the mind behind Mud 79, which is a fan-made Star Wars story. And when I say fan-made, a lot of people, and he talks about this in the interview, but, a lot of people kind of get rubbed the wrong way from hearing fan-made. This is a production like no other. I've gotten the chance to listen to some of the episodes, and it's fantastic. It's top-notch. He's working with people from around the industry. Darcy, have you checked out Mud 79?
I have. Me and Kevin have started listening to it as we do our regular work drives, stuff like that. And I'm the last thing I listened to in this format was the Long Night Wolverine story, which is an official production. And this fan production is, to me, blowing it out of the water in terms of how well written it is. It is so grounded, and the story of a mud trooper is one of those point of view you never get from a main Star Wars story. So it is so good. So good.
Yeah. And the conversation, Justin, kudos to you, is absolutely fantastic as well. And I loved hearing some of the insights. If you go check out Mud 79 and then listen to this interview, you get to hear a little bit about, behind the scenes. What were the inspirations for these characters and the lengths that Fred went to gather the information that he needed to produce this series is absolutely fantastic. So definitely go check out that conversation. Justin, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for our first review of 2024. That's pretty dope. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.